Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday episode of Arch City Sports. I'm your host, AJ Nance, and the MLB trade deadline is over, meaning the Cardinals have their squad for the rest of the season, and we made a couple moves at the deadline. We're going to break that all down today, as well as the first game after the deadline on this Tuesday evening, as well as AAA, AA, single A, and low A action that was happening. But before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe if you guys are on YouTube. Rate and follow if you're on Spotify or Amazon Music or wherever else you're listening or viewing the podcast. And make sure to follow us over there on Instagram and on TikTok. A lot of really good content over there. I shout it out every single time, but we're almost at 2,000 on Instagram, so we're getting there pretty quickly. I can't thank you guys enough for all of the support. But as I mentioned in the opening here, the trade deadline is over. And so the Cardinals made a couple moves at this deadline. Tommy Pham, the former Cardinal, is now a current Cardinal once again. We got him and Eric Fedde from the White Sox in a three-team trade. White Sox, Cardinals, and Dodgers. Tommy Edman is now a Los Angeles Dodger, along with Michael Kopech from the White Sox. And the White Sox got several prospects in this deal. But the main four players here, Tommy Pham, Eric Fedde, Tommy Edman, Michael Kopech. Tommy Edman spent the last 5 years here, his first 5 years of his career, and was one of those guys you could play at any single position every single night. Swap him around, was going to lay it all out on the field for you every single time out. Tommy Edman was the ultimate pro, and just sadly this year, and I made a video about it, things just didn't really work out for him. Injuries set him back a little bit, along with while he's being injured, guys are producing. Michael Ciani took over that center field spot. Brendan Donovan solidified his role even further. Mason Wynn took off. So all those, middle infield, center field positions being taken, it kind of left Tommy with, whose spot was he going to be taking when he came back. So I don't hate the move of moving Tommy Edman and getting a guy in Eric Fedde, who's been, an all-pro type pitcher for the White Sox this year. Was a first-round pick several years back by the Nationals. Had some struggle, had some trouble early in his career, but really has put it all together this year. And he's 31 years old and under contract for one more year, so we'll have him next year if everything goes well. And then Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham's the guy. We needed a right-handed outfielder to platoon against left-handed pitching, and that paid dividends tonight with Tommy Pham. We'll get to that in a second. But Tommy Edman leaving, I think he could, if we're being honest, he could possibly be the everyday third baseman for the Dodgers and take off there. We could really see that happening over there. The other deal, which happened last second, was Dylan Carlson. And I expected Dylan Carlson to be moved. I didn't think it would take this long. And I think it was the matter of who was going to take Dylan Carlson. And so I heard the name Dylan Floro, a middle reliever from the Nationals that was talked about a little bit. Last second, though, we made a call with the Rays and got another middle reliever in Sean Armstrong. Sean Armstrong last year had an ERA under 1.5. This year has had his trouble, but he's also, there's some analytics that could probably be fixed to help his success here. He's been relying a lot on his four-seam fastball rather than his sinker and cutter, which was very successful last year. And he's a guy that doesn't throw super hard, sits between that 91 to 94 range, and so having that movement on his ball with that sinker and cutter, incorporating that much more here might be beneficial for him. But Dylan Carlson is now a Tampa Bay Ray, and baseball's a tough game. It's a business. Dylan Carlson 2 years ago was pretty much untouchable when the Nationals were talking about Juan Soto, and now 2 years later, he is not wanted by many. And so I do wish him the best, and the Tampa Bay Rays are very good at developing talent, and so that might be a really good fit for him. We'll see how that all plays out, but Dylan Carlson, with whether it be guys taking his spots, kind of like Tommy Edman, and injuries piling up. And if you guys remember, Dylan had a very good spring training this year, and then he got injured running into Jordan Walker in the outfield, and that set him back. And then right when the season began, he was recovering from the injured list, and Alec Burleson was taking off and kind of taking that spot from him. And then Michael Ciani, obviously, as I mentioned, kind of developed as well. So Dylan Carlson, not a lot of things going his way, but now as a Tampa Bay Ray, hopefully he can kind of develop there and blossom. But the guys that we got, Tommy Pham, Eric Fetty, Sean Armstrong, I think all three are gonna play huge roles for our team down the stretch here, and we saw it tonight against the Rangers team. That the Texas Rangers are in a very tough situation. They're only about 5 games out of first place in their division, but they're 4 games under 500, and so they were in a very tough spot at the deadline. They didn't make a whole lot of moves. They're kind of just staying pat with what they got, besides a little bit of bullpen help that they got. But we lost game 1 on Monday night. Having game 2 on Tuesday night, we had St. Louis's own Max Scherzer on the mound versus Lance Lynn, and Lance Lynn, outdueled him, just like he outdueled Paul Skeens technically last week. But Lance Lynn, 5 innings, giving up 1 run, only 3 hits, only struck out 3. Lance Lynn has always been a guy that's gone deep into games. He's been eating up innings year after year. And the pitch count has never been an issue for him. I don't see him going over 90 pitches much anymore, and I think they're trying to avoid him facing the lineup for the 3rd time. But with how good our bullpen's been, and they were phenomenal tonight, it's been working out. So Lance Lynn gets his 6th win. We win this one 8-1. Like I said, Lance Lynn, 5 innings, 1 run. Ryan Fernandez comes in, pitches a scoreless inning. Chris Roycroft bounces back after a rough last couple outings with 2 scoreless, and then Kyle Leahy closed it out with a scoreless inning. An 8-1 win. The lineup started off hot. Mason Wynn, first pitch of the game, leadoff homer, 7th homer of the season, his 2nd leadoff homer of the season and of his career. Alec Burleson was getting really close to falling under that 280 average point mark, I should say, and I was about to make a whole clip in this episode, a segment about how we probably need to give him a little more rest because he has not played this much in his career. I mean, the dude's playing every single day in a high leverage, spot in the lineup at that 2-hole. But he comes out tonight, had a huge clutch RBI single in the middle of this game. I still think he might need a game or 2 coming up here because we're in a stretch here of a lot of games, 16 straight days with a game. So he might need to, get some spot rest in there every once in a while. But he had a hit, an RBI. Contreras goes 1 for 3 with a single. Lars Nootbaar, an RBI double in this one. Goldie was 0 for 3. Matt Carpenter, a double. Brandon Crawford getting the spot start for Nolan Arenado at 3rd base. He was 2 for 4 with an RBI double. Gorman goes 0 for 3 with a strikeout, and Michael Ciani goes 1 for 3. But the biggest at-bat of the game, and arguably, you can make a case the biggest at-bat, biggest potential turning point in the season came in the 5th inning when Matt Carpenter came up to the plate with the bases loaded, and Tommy Pham pinch hits for him, and the whole kind of build up in this at bat, you could tell something great was about to happen. He laid off a couple really tough pitches. It was a 2-2 count, and Tommy Pham turned on it into right center field, and the launch angle wasn't very high on this thing. It was just a straight line drive, barely got over the fence, a grand slam from Tommy Pham, and his first at bat and first game back as a St. Louis Cardinal. A huge moment for Tommy Pham. This is a event. This is a play in the season, a moment in the season that can really transform what we're doing this year. It really can. It can jumpstart us like crazy. Not only today's such a huge day because it solidifies your roster for the rest of the season, but Tommy Pham, everybody's kind of comfortable now because they know they're not being moved. There's just a sense of comfort that you're going to be here the rest of the year in this clubhouse that we got. And Tommy Pham, the guy that you went out and got, spent Tommy Edman for, contributed right away against a left-handed pitcher. The dugout, you could see Lars Nootbaar was fired up. Michael Ciani. What really caught my eye was Paul Goldschmidt was screaming in the back of the dugout, which you never see him show emotion. So a huge moment for us, a huge moment for our season. Hopefully, as Lance Lynn said in the press conference afterwards, hopefully this can kind of jumpstart us and we can build off of this. And, later in the season, look back at this win and be like, that was the turning point of our season. An 8-1 win, though, like I said, we are now 55-52 on the season. We have game 3 on Wednesday afternoon at 1:15. So as you're listening to this, it's the afternoon game. And we actually have a MLB debut. Michael McGreevy is going to be making his debut versus the Rangers. That's a kind of a surpriser. I mean, I know we're in the middle of a 16-game stretch here without a day off. And they really want to give our starting pitching some more rest because they've been working a lot this last month and a half, trying to eat up innings to save our bullpen a little bit. But Michael McGreevy gets the call, and so that sets everybody back, along with Eric Fetty pitching on Friday. That gives Sonny another 2 days of rest. That gives Lance and Kyle Gibson and Michaelis and Palante rest as well. So I do like the move. McGreevy's kind of a first-round pick a couple of years ago. I was kind of surprised that he was the guy called up. There's a couple other guys down there that have been pitching pretty well. But he gets the call, and I hope he shows out tomorrow. He's been a little bit of hit or miss in AAA this year. A couple of really good outings recently, and then he gets lit up for 5 runs. So hopefully we can find that consistency and that balance here for Michael McGreevy. But we are now 6 games back out of first place in the NL Central after the Brewers lose to the Braves tonight. So hopefully we can get this series win versus the Rangers on Wednesday before we head out to Chicago for a 4-game series where, as I mentioned, Eric Fetty makes his debut on Friday versus the Cubbies. Let's take a little pipeline update. All 4 of our minor league teams played this evening, so let's take a look at all of them. Starting in AAA, Memphis with a 11-6 loss. We are now 49-54 on the season. Ian Bedell, a starting pitcher from Mizzou that has pitched very well all year long, got lit up tonight. 5 innings pitched, giving up 10 runs, and he actually gave up 9 runs in the first 2 innings and kind of just had to wear it and bite the bullet tonight. And he got us through 5 innings, giving up 10. Ryan Shreve followed that, going 3 innings, only giving up 1 run. He's a guy, one of those middle relievers that's been eating up a lot of innings when he needs, the team needs him with a starter who struggled. 3 innings from him. You look at the lineup. Victor Scott, 1 for 4 with another homer. Jordan Walker, 2 hits tonight, which is a really good sign. Both of them were absolute lasers off the bat, and he actually, in the 9th inning, got robbed of his 3rd hit of the game. So that's a good sign to see. Thomas Ajacey, 2 for 4 with a double. He's a guy that's been red hot as of late. He's now batting .253 on the season. He was sitting in that .230, .240 range for a while. Hopefully, we can get Sajasi up to that 260, 270 area. And, he has 12 homers, almost 50 RBIs. So it could be looking at a really good, season overall if he can get that average up. And then Matt Koperniak is a guy that I've said it so many times. It's the only reason he's not playing at the major league level is because he's a left-handed bat, and we have so many of them. I'm glad we did not get rid of him because he is 26 years old. He went 2 for 4 tonight with a homer and 5 RBIs. He's had an unbelievable season, batting .303. And I think whenever we expand the rosters in September, I think Matt Koperniak deserves the nod before even Jordan Walker and Victor Scott. I think Victor Scott might get the call because of the speed, but Matt Koperniak can move and play defense and can hit. He can do a little bit of everything for you. I think Matt Koperniak deserves the call, along with another bullpen arm, of course, whether it be Ryan Ludis or Riley O'Brien or Andre Granillo is a guy I'm really high on. But Matt Koperniak deserves his credit, and he could be looking at one of those minor league awards for our organization this year. He's had a great year. Moving on to Double-A, though, not going to stay here very long. An 8-1 loss tonight by Springfield. A very odd showing by Springfield because we are now 54-43 on the year. A very successful season so far. Our offense went silent, though. Only 4 hits total. Jimmy Crooks gets his 7th homer of the year. Edwin Nunez going 3 2/3, giving up 6 runs. 3 of them were earned. His ERA is now over 7 on the season. Benito Garcia followed him. I have to shout out Benito because Benito follows our podcast on Instagram. So shout out Benito Garcia. He went 2 1/3 tonight, giving up 2 runs. His ERA is now slightly over 3 on the season. But like I said, kind of an odd showing by Springfield. We are 54-43 on the year and has had a lot of success, but only 4 hits tonight. Very unlike our lineup has been showing all year long. Moving on to Single A Peoria, a 5-3 win. They are now 42 and 54 on the season. Brody Moore leading us off, going 3 for 4. Chase Davis getting the promotion from Palm Beach up to Peoria. He goes 1 for 4 with a 2 RBI single that ended up winning the game. If you look at it by the end of it, it was at 1.5-1, but the other team scored a couple runs, so that 2 RBI single by Chase Davis was very huge. But the story of the game for me was Darlene Saladin, and I might be not pronouncing that correctly, but Darlene Saladin, 7 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts. He now has a 3.38 ERA at Peoria, and all year long between Palm Beach and Peoria, he has a sub-3 ERA. That's a starting pitcher with a lot of gas, nasty breaking stuff, great slider. Keep an eye on Saladin moving forward. I think he could find his way up to Double-A by the end of the season even. But I think out of all the minor league system, everybody, keeps an eye on AAA and Double-A even more than Low A and High A. But Low A had the biggest news of all of our minor league system tonight because 7 or 8 of the draft picks were sent to Palm Beach. So J.J. Weatherholt makes his pro debut. Guests of the show, Ryan Campos and John Gazdar. Ian Petrutz is going to hop on the podcast in the next couple weeks. They all make their debut tonight. But Jason Savakul kind of stole the show on the mound for Palm Beach, going 6 innings, giving up no runs, striking out 6. His ERA is now 3.48 on the season. He was a 6th round pick last year. He's another guy, just like Saladin at High A. Keep an eye on Jason Savakul. This is a guy that could work his way up through the system very quickly. He's had a very successful year in Palm Beach and a very good outing tonight, going 6 innings, giving up no runs. J.J. Weatherholt, his first game as a professional baseball player, he went 1 for 2 with a walk. Bryce Madron goes 0 for 2. Ryan Campos goes 1 for 2, getting his first major league hit, or not, first pro hit, I should say. Ian Petrutz goes 1 for 2. Cross goes 0 for 3. John Gazdar, another guest of the show, goes 0 for 2. Christian Martin 0 for 3, and McGee goes 0 for 3 as well. So half the guys got a hit, which was really good to see, and I'm just glad all of them got in the game, got some playing time. Some of them were pulled out a little early, but just having that experience, having that playing time. I looked, I think it was last week at single or at Low A Palm Beach, and a lot of those guys were really late draft picks from 3-4 years ago, 2 years ago, stuff like that. And I was really hoping it wouldn't just be J.J. Weatherholt getting a chance to play down there. I was hoping all of these guys would get a chance, and it's really good to see that all these guys were sent there. Nolan Sparks is a relief pitcher that we drafted in this past draft a couple weeks ago, and he's actually going to be hopping on the podcast and I'll be posting that on Friday, so keep an eye on that. But he'll by that point maybe have already made his pro debut, I should say. So that's going to be really interesting to talk about that with him. If you guys have not already checked out the interview that I had with Tanner Jacobson, go check that out. Very interesting interview talking about his career, his path, what the trade deadline looks like. That's posted right now already. But make sure to follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok for all the content over there. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow and rate if you are on Spotify or Amazon Music listening, or wherever else you are listening. We would really appreciate that. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys on Friday where we recap the Cardinals and Rangers series, and we also take a look. I guess one game of that Cubs series will already have been played, but we'll take a whole look at the Cubs series and take a little preview to Eric Fetty's debut as a St. Louis Cardinal. But thank you guys so much for listening, and be on the lookout on Friday for that episode as well as the interview with Nolan Sparks. I will see you guys then.